Hello everyone, this is Tanveer from Vision Overseas Group, and with me Isha Parmar, my associate. We are again here for some updates. The first week we are here with the good news in regards to the 485. There was a lot of rumors in regards to the legislative changes that been introduced by the department, which has a lot of gray areas, and we've been trying and other bodies been trying to reach out to the department to actually need a clarity on these changes. Initially it was assumed that you can only hold 485 visa once in a lifetime, rather you are on a primary or secondary applicant, and there was a lot of panic in regards to the applicant who currently on a secondary 485 visa that they actually can't lodge their 485 as a primary applicant in the future, which there is a bit of relief in this one that been advised by the department and been cleared by the department that the changes it will be there won't be any changes like that, and the criteria will be the same as it was, that if you are currently on a 485 holder on us as a secondary applicant, like on us as a spouse, then you can actually lodge your 485 visa as a primary applicant in the future as well. So it's a bit of relief for all the applicants who were really worried about that what's going to happen in regards to the 485, and where and a lot of people that as a who were a secondary applicant and now they are studying in Australia on a primary applicant and looking forward to apply for a 485 in the future, they can actually do that now. So this is a bit of relief. So now come again with the there's another one that Queensland has opened their state nomination today, and they open from today 1st of February till the window will be the 1st of February till 7th of February, and after that the next time they will open their nomination criteria will be in April 2021. If we say about the 491 in Queensland, they only focusing on the critical sectors, like all other normal occupation won't be considered. The minimum pass point, like the minimum pass point for that one is 65 or above, and the criteria for that one is that you must work in your nominated occupation which is in a critical sector for at least 3 months before you can actually apply, and you should have another 12 months of offer letter in your nominated occupation. The critical sectors, you can go onto the Queensland website and look into it, and just in a nutshell, it's regarded to the medical line or food supply chain. So these occupations are actually the critical sector which actually help the state to recover from the COVID, and you can find all this occupation from Queensland website in under the critical sectors, and you need to submit a brand new EOI if you meet all the criteria of Queensland and your occupation is actually in the critical sector. And if we talk about the 190, then the minimum point requirement for 190 is 80, and it's go above as priority, depends on the priority. And in regards to the 190, they only focusing on the priority list rather than the critical list. So priority list is again which has around 18 occupation in that one, like a registered nurse and software engineer, developer, programmer is 18 occupation which department previously released that they're focusing and that they consider that which are in a priority occupation list. So for to be eligible for 190, you must have experience of at least 6 months in your occupation which is under a priority list, and going further you should have at least 12 months of a job offer letter in your occupation as well. So now Isha will tell you detail, as she previously you might be already aware that Tasmania has came up with their all nomination criteria requirement on 29th of January, which is in very detail. So Isha will actually go through each and every criteria of under Tasmania regulation and how it will work, and from here Isha will take over. Thank you.
Let's talk about Tasmania State Nomination Subclass 190 in as much detail as possible. I'll try to explain it to you in the easiest way possible. But still, if you have any questions, you are always free to book an appointment and talk to us about your situation in detail. Now, there are two categories to Subclass 190. Category 1 is if you study in Tasmania, and Category 2 is if you work in Tasmania. Now, what would it take if you choose to study in Tasmania to get an invitation for Subclass 190? Common criteria, I have written it common criteria because there is going to be a division down the track, that there are some students who would have already started studying before 30th of June, and there are going to be students who would be studying after 30th of June. So the common criteria is that all of the applicants, including the primary and the dependent applicants, they all should be living in Tasmania. Second thing is that wherever you choose to study from, your course should be CRI course registered, and the institution should be CRI course registered institution. That's where you should be picking up to study your course, and the study must be full-time and on-site in Tasmania. You must meet Australian study requirement. Australian study requirement is where the course should be at least 92 weeks. At least 92 weeks long. Could be longer than that, but it shouldn't be any shorter than 92 weeks. And if you are working, if you are employed, and your employment is lower than, your occupation is lower than the skill level 1 to 3, then you have to provide a career plan explaining how this study has contributed towards achieving a skilled job in Tasmania. So again, I'll say this point again, you have to provide a career plan if you are not already working in a skilled occupation. Skilled occupation is from skill level 1 to 3. If you are working in an occupation which is lower than skill level 3, you have to provide a career plan showing how your study contributed towards achieving a skilled job in Tasmania. Now, as I said before, there are going to be students who are already studying. They will be under the category before 30th of June 2021, and those who choose to study after 30th of June 2021, this criteria is going to apply to them. Let's talk about it. There is a difference. It says that before 30th of June 2021, if you have already started studying, you must have lived in the state for at least 2 years and during your period of study. So you must have lived 2 years, and that 2 years could be during the period of your study. But if you start to study after 30th of June 2021, then the 2-year period starts from the commencement of your course. The 2-year period, it starts from the commencement of your course. For example, in this situation, if you started studying bachelor's in another state, you completed 2 semesters of that bachelor's in that state, but the other 2 years of that bachelor's, you decided to do that in Tasmania. You decided to complete those 2 years, the rest of the 2 years of your bachelor's in Tasmania, then you would fall under this category. And this is only applicable if you already are in Australia, and if you already are in Tasmania and you have already started studying, because this criteria will be applicable to the applicants before 30th of June 2021. So you have lived in that state for at least 2 years and during your period of study. So 1 year, if you have already started that course, if you have already started your bachelor's in another state, but the other 2 years you decide to do that in Tasmania, you would be eligible for this category, for the Subclass 190. Whereas if you choose to study after 30th of June 2021, bear in mind the 2-year period begins from the commencement of your course. So when you begin that course in Tasmania, after that you should have stayed there for at least 2 years. And it also says that study need not be related to the nominated occupation, whereas for before 30th of June, the state remains silent about it. More after 30th of June 2021 requirements are that if you have studied on a student visa, what sort of course or what kind of study is eligible to get to Subclass 190? It says that that study should be either a degree or a diploma or a qualification directly related to priority industry. I will come back to priority industry later on. Just bear in mind, if you are studying on a student visa, the course that you choose to study, it should be either a degree or a diploma or it could be a qualification directly related to the priority industry. When it says qualification directly related to priority industry, that means that if your qualification is in priority industry, it could be other than diploma or a degree as well. But if it's not related to priority industry, it has to be a degree or a diploma when you're studying after 30th of June 2021. And if you study and you are studying on a visa other than a student visa, so if it is not a student visa, then your qualification, your study must be directly related to the priority industry. It cannot be a degree, it cannot be a diploma, or it cannot be a master's. It doesn't say anything like that. It says that it should be directly related to this industry. When it says should be related to this industry, then it could be anything. So for example, the priority industries are like agriculture, tourism and hospitality, building and construction, it's information and communication technology, disability, transport and logistics. So from these industries, your qualification could be anything related to these industries. But for example, accounting is not in this industry. And if you choose to study something related to accounting, then in that case, it should be done on a student visa. Because otherwise, if you choose to study that on a visa other than a student visa, then you wouldn't be eligible for a subclass 190. So that's the difference between these two requirements. Now we'll move on to the other side, which is category 2. So working in Tasmania. Working in Tasmania, so it should be, you should work in the nominated occupation for at least 6 months on full-time basis. What have they categorized full-time as, or how they define full-time? That's at least 35 hours per week. It could be a full-time job, one full-time job, or it could also be equivalent to 2 part-time jobs. But the total should be at least 35 hours per week. Again, the occupation must be on TESOL. We will talk about TESOL later. And your employers must be actively operating for at least 12 months before you apply for the, under this category. All applicants, including your dependents, they all should be living in Tasmania. The salary should meet the market salary rate. For example, the market salary rate for chefs is at 54,000. Then you must be paid at least 54,000 while you were working in your nominated occupation. It should be a genuine position, an ongoing contract, and there should be at least 3 months left on your contract before you apply under this category. There are certain exemptions as well. So exemptions are related to the areas of employment. Now the exemptions are related to supermarket, service stations, limited restaurants, limited service restaurants like takeaway or franchisee. So you can't be working there. And again, Uber, taxi drivers, subcontracted works like cleaning or security work or other building maintenance sort of work, those kind of areas of employment are not covered under category 2, which is working in Tasmania. As I was saying, we'll talk about TESOL. Now what Tasmania has done is previously Tasmania used to accept all occupations as they were on the department's list, like on the department's medium-term list or the short-term list. So if the occupation is on that list, they would take the nomination application for those occupations. Now they have released their own occupation list based on these priority industries. They have only released limited occupations. You can go to our newsletter to see which occupations are on the list. I can tell you that accountants are not on the list, cooks and chefs are on the list, and there are other occupations like physiotherapists, registered nurse, they are all on the list. So yes, they have released their own occupation list, and when you are nominating under any of these categories, your occupation, not under any of this, if you are applying for the nomination under category 2, your occupation should be on TESOL. And now we will talk about subclass 491, and there is a lot to tell you about subclass 491 as well. Okay, now let's talk about subclass 491 for Tasmania. They have released their criteria for the subclass 491 as well, and there are about 5 subcategories to this subclass 491 nomination. The first one is Tasmania graduate. Again, those who have graduated from Tasmania, what sort of course you should be studying, how much should be, what's the length of the course that you have studied, what other eligibility criteria are released by them. It is essentially same as subclass 190 in terms of general things like CRICO's registered course, all applicants should be living in Tasmania, career plan is needed if you're not a skilled worker. And if you compare it to subclass 190, subclass 190 is the study should be at least 2 years or at least 9 to 2 weeks. It says that if you have only studied for a minimum of 1 academic year or 40 weeks, you may be eligible for a subclass 491. Now the course could be a degree, a diploma or trade qualification, as opposed to 190 where it should be a degree or a diploma. And if you are studying after 30th of June 2021, same as subclass 190, if you studied on a student visa, then the course could be a degree or a diploma or directly related to the priority industry. But if you did not study on a student visa, then your course should be related to the priority industry, as explained previously. Now, working in Tasmania for a subclass 190, the major difference, for a subclass 491, the major difference between subclass 491 and 190 is that for the 491, 6 months employment in Tasmania, it need not be in your nominated occupation. Whereas for 190, it must be in the nominated occupation. And the occupation should also be on TESOL. It doesn't need to be on TESOL for a subclass 491. General requirements like all applicants should be in Tasmania, employer must be operating for at least 12 months now, it's a genuine position, ongoing position, you meet the market salary rate, and again full-time employment, could be 2 part-time jobs as well, but it should be at least 35 hours per week. These are the general requirements which are same as 190 as well. Major difference, as said previously, 6 months work experience in any occupation. But if your occupation is skill level 4 or 5, if it is lower than skill level 3, then there are certain extra requirements. For example, the occupation should be associated to aged care or disability, job must be located 50 kilometers from the populated center, and you also have to provide evidence of prior work experience or qualification if the job is below the skill level 4 or 5. Next category is if you have family in Tasmania. Now with this one, the applicant should be outside of Tasmania. It could be in another state or even offshore, but the applicant should be outside of Tasmania. And what the family members' requirement are. So what are the, what is the criteria that is applicable to the family member or the family member has to satisfy. Again, the family member should be an Australian citizen or permanent resident for at least 12 months now. They should be residing in Tasmania for the past 12 months before applying for this category. And the family member can be a parent, a brother, a sister, aunt, uncle, or child or grandparent. But this family member cannot be related to you by marriage. For example, in-laws. You cannot say that for example, I have the skills assessment, I can be, I'm the primary applicant, but my husband's brother is in Tasmania. Then in that way, I cannot be the primary applicant. My husband should be the primary applicant because his brother can sponsor him, but he cannot sponsor me. That's what I meant by relationship by marriage are not eligible for this category. Next one, which is also very popular, small business ownership. With the small business ownership, you must be running running an established business in Tasmania, and that business should be generating you a personal taxable income of at least 53,900, and you also have to show previous business owner. It is like recommended that you must provide prior business ownership or management experience and you also have to provide a comprehensive business plan to explain to the assessor that how would you satisfy this small business ownership criteria, or how are you suitable for this category. The last two ones are for the overseas applicants. Very simple one is if you have a job offer from Tasmania. Overseas applicants, occupation should be on TESOL. So none of the applicants have lived in another state, in another Australian state for the past 12 months. If you're an offshore applicant and you've recently moved offshore, if you recently went offshore, you were in another state in Australia, you would not be eligible for this category. You must have lived outside of Australia for at least 12 months before being eligible for this occupation, especially if you were in another state other than Tasmania. The position should be genuine, ongoing, must meet the market salary rate, and with the TESOL there are additional requirements for offshore applicants. There is work experience related requirement. For example, if someone is someone is nominating an occupation, and that occupation has additional notes saying that you must have 3 years of work experience, then that's applicable to this category. So the applicant must demonstrate that they have the required work experience to be eligible to pick that occupation as their nominated occupation. Last one, again, overseas applicant based on TESOL, you must be invited for this category. Must be invited means you have to apply for the expression of interest, pick Tasmania as your state, and if they deem it suitable, then they will send you an invitation. They do it on periodic basis. There is no set time frame that you would receive an invitation within this much time frame. They do it on periodic basis. Requirements are same as the job offer one, but with this one it says that occupation should be on TESOL, again meet the additional requirements of work experience. You also have to show that you also have to demonstrate your employability in Tasmania by doing an employment opportunity research. For example, you have to show that the skills you have, the occupation that you are nominating, that's in demand in Tasmania, and you'd be able to get a job once you come to Tasmania. Also, at the moment with this category, if your occupation is in high demand occupation, which are generally related to medical field, like physiotherapist, occupational therapist, or registered nurse, then the employment requirement is waived off. Then you don't need to show that you have 3 years of work experience as a registered nurse. That requirement is waived off in this category. That should be all about Tasmania State Nomination Subclass 190 and 491. Please feel free to book an appointment and speak to us about your situation, and let's figure out if you would fit in any of these categories, or if you would like to plan ahead and go for one of these categories to secure your permanent residency. Thank you. Guys, please don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. Follow us on Facebook for all the updated news and tips that we send every Friday. And you may find something that you'd be eligible, or the new tips and tricks that are happening in the industry, because there are so many changes which are happening these days. So you do want to stay up to date, and we are helping you stay up to date with all these videos that we are making and all the tips that we are sending every Friday. Please don't forget to subscribe, and please follow us on Facebook. Thank you.